Greetings, sisters and brothers, here in the US and the Pan African family globally and on the African continent as well. My name is Milton Ali Mahdi. I publish Black Star News in New York City. I teach African history at John Jay College. I teach journalism at Columbia University. And I am on the advisory committee of the National Unity Platform Diaspora Council. Today, we commemorate the life of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., one of the greatest figures of the 20th century. Dr. King's life ended prematurely with assassination at the age of only 39. He was born January 15, 1929. And of course, his birthday is now a national holiday in the United States. Dr. King's contribution to the U.S. civil rights movement is peerless, and that is widely acknowledged. Of course, there were many foot soldiers. There were many other leaders, and Dr. King always acknowledged them in the struggle. And that is why there were some achievements in the civil rights struggle in the United States. The United States still has a long way to go, but many of the people who were inspired by Dr. King continue that struggle today for equity, for justice in the United States. Dr. King, many may not know, was also very closely connected to the motherland, our beloved African continent. Dr. King was only 27 years old when he was invited by Kwame Nkrumah to Ghana's independence celebration in 1957. Dr. King was very inspired by that event and very impressed by the struggle of the Ghanaians for independence. When he returned to the United States, he made a speech in his church called The Birth of a New Nation. The title of the speech was selected deliberately, intentionally, of course. He was rebutting and countering that famous racist film, Birth of a Nation. And that is why I entitled the speech, Birth of a New Nation. I want to quote a little bit from that speech that he gave in his church upon his return from Ghana's independence celebration. Quote, "The oppressor never voluntarily gives freedom to the oppressed. You have to work for it. And if Nkrumah and the people of Ghana had not stood up persistently, revolting against the system, it would still be a colony of the British Empire. Freedom only comes through persistent revolt, through persistent agitation, through persistently rising up against the system of evil." Dr. King was making this reflection to inspire people in other parts of the world, but also in the United States. Remember, that was 1957, way before many of the achievements of the civil rights struggle. So Dr. King indeed took some lessons from Kwame Nkrumah's own struggle. This is where Africa was fertiling the struggle here in the United States. I like to quote from another speech that Dr. King made, and this was in condemnation of the racist apartheid system in South Africa. Dr. King was on his way to accept the Nobel Peace Prize in December 1964. And while he was in London, he spoke out against the Western support for the apartheid system in South Africa. Quote, this is what he said. It is in this situation, with the great mass of South Africans denied their humanity, their dignity, denied opportunity, denied all human rights. It is in this situation, with many of the bravest and best South Africans serving long years in prison, with some already executed. In this situation, we in America and Britain have a unique responsibility, for it is we, through our investments, through our government's failure to act decisively, who are guilty of bolstering up the South African tyranny. This was in 1964. Sisters and brothers, let us reflect briefly, particularly for comrades and sisters and brothers in Uganda. Dr. King's condemnation of South Africa and support by the United States and Britain echo precisely what many of us are insisting today in the 21st century, that Britain and the United States should not be aiding, abetting, financing the tyranny that we have today in Uganda under the military dictatorship of General Yoweri Museveni. And we should take lesson from Dr. King's speech after his return from Ghana to his church. The oppressor never yields power voluntarily. Persistence is what Dr. King called for. So let's take inspiration from this speech that Dr. King made in 1957, praising the achievements of the people of Ghana who resisted British tyranny. Today, we in Uganda resist British and United States assisted, supported tyranny. Let us be persistent, and we shall overcome, as Dr. King would have said. Thank you so much, sisters and brothers. Blessings. And as Samora Machel used to say in Mozambique, a luta continua until victory is achieved. Thank you. Thank you very much. Bless the memory and legacy of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. May he continue to rest in peace with the ancestors.